Howdy, I'm Lonnie Ray Williams. Your choice for true representation and real leadership in Washington's 7th Legislative District. I've been on the campaign trail quite a bit lately, attending a lot of forums, so I haven't been able to get any videos out, but I figured this would be an appropriate one. I received a lot of questions from a lot of people over the course of the campaign. And here's a series of questions from a Democratic voter that I think is fairly well versed as far as what a lot of their positions may be. And I figured it'd be fair for me to answer these. So for anybody on the Democratic side or left-leaning, want to know how I feel about certain things, this is probably a good video to watch. So this person, a lot of them are phrased in yes or no questions, and if I care to elaborate, feel free to. So here's the one on climate change. I guess the best way for me to do is read these and answer, and hopefully I answer. I'm not going to give this voter's name. I appreciate her reaching out, and I think that they're very well worded, and I hope that they answer her questions, and I hope that they answer a lot of questions. Anyone who want to know how I stand on certain things here. Climate change. I believe climate change is primarily man-made, in quotes there, and that more should be done to ban the use of fossil fuels and aggressively curb industry from polluting our environment. Oh, I disagree with that. Primarily man-made, no. As far as the research I've been able to do over the past few decades, certainly less than 2%, most likely less than 1% of the current climate situation is man-made, especially over the past couple of years, and with the increased volcanology and increased volcanoes going off. We've got a lot of things going on that aren't taken into account in their current climate models. And one of the main things they don't take into account is the solar forcing that comes in through our sun. And you need to look at things through the lens of a plasma physicist, I suppose, to understand that. And they leave a lot of that out. Another thing that they draw a lot of they don't take into account the weakening Earth's magnetic field. And that has additional implications. Our planet is speeding up. We've had the fastest rotation this year. We broke another record. So there's a lot of things going on with our planet that are a lot more complicated rather than the 1 or 2% version of man-made climate change. Geologically speaking, on a time scale, we're actually in a cooling trend. Our planet's been much hotter, and we're at the tail end of an ice age. And so, is it a pause in that? Could we slip back into an ice age? In the long-term things, none of us are going to be around when we hit a lot of these upswings and downswings. We need to deal with the climate as it is. We need to be good stewards of our planet, but we ought not to tinker with things by throwing chemtrails and other things into the atmosphere that we don't know exactly what we're doing. We're causing a lot of our own problems, certainly, but a lot of the people who are causing problems are people who don't understand what they're talking about on the climate. So, green energy. I believe the government should be more aggressive at requiring transition to green energy. No. So let me finish this. So I believe the government should be more aggressive at requiring a transition to green energy, including banning the sale of all fossil fuel vehicles in the future, similar to what California is proposing. No. I think that's a violation of the Constitution and everyone's personal rights. And we need to start returning to our Constitution and to understand that government's primary role is stewardship over our rights and to protect them, not to strip us of those rights. Government doesn't have the right to tell us what to do. So, no. I don't believe that government should be more aggressive at requiring a transition to green energy. I don't think government should ever be aggressive at requiring people to do much of anything. So dams. I believe dams inflict harm on the environment and salmon. In favor of the removal as alternate energy sources are developed. No, I don't favor the removal at all, not one bit. You can put fish ladders in, and you can turn them into tourist attractions and multicultural centers and other things like that to bring awareness and help. But you certainly should not destroy one of the cleanest forms of energy that we have on this planet right now. There are currently no alternatives to clean hydropower. There simply isn't. Nuclear is the second best, and that has some serious waste long-term issues. So hydro is the cleanest power we have that's consistent. Just the technology required to develop or implement and produce solar panels is they're incredibly dirty to produce. Wind turbines, same things, and these things have lifespans that need to be replaced in the tens of years, whereas dams last a lot longer before they need renovations and repairs. So no, I'm in favor of more dams. Actually, I think it's the smart way to go. But I think that along our rivers, we could have many micro turbines going along to help people that live along rivers to generate some of their own power without the use of dams. I think there's a lot of innovative things we need to look at to see how we can actually produce more power instead of just saying no against sticking things in water and generating power. So nuclear. This person's in favor of developing small nuclear power plants for generating electricity, much like France does. Yeah, I think small is the way to go. Certainly, we have a much better grasp at developing small nuclear plants. We our aircraft carriers. We have a long history of small plants, and but I don't think it should just be nuclear. I think there's other elements that we could form reactions with, and we ought to be looking into those as well. And I've heard a lot of interesting proposals, and I believe that we should be looking into those. Windmills. I support more windmill farms. The more the better. Oh, I don't know about that. I believe they make sense in certain areas, but ecologically, they do their own fair share of damage to the ecology. And, they sure make a pretty landscape look ugly. So there's a thought process of preserving some areas from these monstrosities. Just because we need places to go where we can look and reflect and not see massive damages to our skyline and view. Sure, people would feel the same way if we put a bunch of coal-fired power plants all across their view. Everyone doesn't necessarily want to see something, and so I where it makes sense, sure, but we need to think about the impacts. Ecological impacts and a lot of other things. Homelessness. Let's see, I believe the state needs to spend more to provide housing for homelessness. Yes or no? No. I don't think it's government's responsibility to do much of anything other than preserve rights. Local communities need to deal with their own local issues. Shouldn't be government. It's not government's role. Certainly we should rely on faith-based initiatives and non-faith-based non-governmental organizations, charities that do these sort of things. They should be supported. That's where any funds should be given from the populace rather than be forced taxation. Government's not a good steward of the people's money, and we need to look at homelessness in a different avenue. I have a lot of personal experience in homeless. I was a homeless veteran after I had a stroke, so I know it worked for me. It was a faith-based organization that helped me get on my feet, not perpetuate the situation I was in. And so that's kind of where I think that a lot of our solutions need to be. Substance abuse. I believe all substance abuse is a disease, not a choice. No, I completely disagree with this as well. I had my bouts with substance abuse, especially as I was younger, coming out of the military. And no. Certainly parts of substance abuse. There are people who have a genetic propensity to be more addicted to just about anything, whether it be cigarettes, drugs, alcohol, gambling. It's a genetic trait, and so those individuals, have choices to make. Do you participate in certain activities that may lead to addiction? Or not? But ultimately, It is a choice, and I understand how difficult it is to break that chain of addiction. But the only thing that starts to break that chain is a choice. To choose not to be addicted, to choose to accept that you're powerless over your situation if you're doing a 12-step program or whatever your treatment plan is. To me, it's all belief in God, and God fixes everything. Some people don't travel down that avenue, but for me, I know that I can put my faith in the Lord, and that works for me. For other people, I know it's a lot more complicated than that, and they need deeper help, but it's still a choice on whether they want to make the effort to change or not. That's so. I believe substance abuse is a choice. We ought to not enable people, but we certainly ought to provide all sorts of avenues for healing. But we certainly shouldn't enable them. Let's see here. I believe welfare recipients should be drug tested and denied cash benefits if testing positive for substance abuse. Yes or no? Oh, this is a liberty issue question. First off, I don't believe we should be providing cash benefits, welfare benefits, because you enter yourself into these moral obligations, and government should never have the right to intrude on anybody. So therefore, government should really never service anybody in this way if people are concerned about that. And I know, because I have, again, personal experience in this. When I was in my homeless program, when recovering from my stroke, I was in a housing unit where I experienced and saw how people live their lives. And yes, many of them did do drugs and had challenges like that. But I don't believe that, again, it should be government providing those things, and it should be faith-based organizations or non-faith-based, and that should be their qualifications of whoever is handing out that money as far as how they would receive it. I don't ever think that government should be put in that position. It's never our position as government. It never was the founding fathers' dream of having a government that provides all these things. So let's see, mental health. I believe the state should provide mental health facilities and care for individuals with mental health issues. Yes or no? No, I don't think it's a state issue. Again, I believe we need to empower the organizations out there that are organizations, associations, whether faith-based or not, that are passionate about these, and we need to empower them, because anything we involve the government in, it ties up. It's wasteful money. So not at all. I don't think that the government, again, should be in charge of mental health. The history of facilities and government and mental health is never good, never works out. People's civil rights are trampled all over. There are many abuses, and it's not a humane way of treating people who have some serious problems. So we need to look beyond government trying to fix things. Crime. I support the defund the police movement. Wow. And believe money would be better spent on counseling and our law enforcement officers, as well as more social programs for the poor. I disagree with this. We should not defund our police. That's the wrong answer. Criminals are going to do whatever criminals are going to do, and if you just straight up defund the police, it's not going to work out the way you think it is. So no, we need a good police system and a good sheriff system, but we need to make sure that it is civil rights focused, and that we need to, each officer needs to understand the Constitution. We have many sheriffs who don't completely understand the Constitution across this country. And that should be the number one focus of any sheriff or any sheriff candidate is, do they know the Constitution? Do they know their constitutional obligation? And so focusing on Constitution is where we need to do our police reforms, because by and large, if we stick to the Constitution, we wouldn't have half the issues we have. We need to get rid of Patriot Act, a bunch of things like that have destroyed our justice system, and make sure that proper loopholes are proper loopholes. There's no such thing as a proper loophole. We need to make sure that the proper procedures are followed. And I remember a time in law enforcement had to have some good probable cause to do some things, because people do have their rights. People even have the right to do stupid things, and so long as it doesn't interfere with other people's rights. And we need to take a reevaluation through a constitutional lens on where we're at. So that's on the crime as well, because there's a lot of, there are a lot of things that are categorized as crimes that I don't think constitutionally they would be considered crimes. So our whole system needs to be reevaluated and looked at through a constitutional lens, but we need to empower our peace officers constitutionally to do their duties. And we need to get the politics, I think, out of our law enforcement. It would fix a lot of our problems. So gun legislation. I believe gun ownership needs to be more strictly controlled, and that ultimately guns should be allowed only in the hands of qualified law enforcement officers. No, absolutely no. That did not work out well for Australia or anybody else. Criminals will always have guns. The 7th District especially is a widely rural area, and if you have a problem, whether it be a bear, wildlife, or someone who's just crazy, and you're on your own, at least for 30 minutes to an hour. These are vast rural counties where sometimes they don't necessarily have somebody actively on duty at all times, or maybe they're far away on the other side of the county. And the law enforcement is very open about saying, look, you need to learn to know how to protect yourself and protect your rights against either animals or otherwise, human animals as well, for that matter. So no, absolutely. People have an unalienable right to defend themselves. That's universal, and we can defend ourselves by any means necessary. I believe in getting rid of all gun legislation. It may sound pretty crazy, but that's the way our founding fathers had it, and that's the way it should be. You want to own a machine gun? Look, if you're crazy enough to, fine. I'm a good enough shot. One bullet's good enough, and most people are. Machine guns are wildly inaccurate, waste a lot of good ammo, and usually more inclined for military use, and they just suck for civilian purposes. Other than in the hands of irresponsible people. But anyway, gun legislation, no, we need to go a long way for going back the way we used to be. Voting. I believe everyone physically present in our country should be allowed to vote regardless of status. I absolutely disagree with that. Absolutely disagree. Voting is one of the most cherished rights we have in this country. And voting is the act of voting, choosing who is going to represent you, who's going to listen to you, who's going to carry your voice forward in government, is the most sacred act that anyone should have. And we require a licensing and test to drive a car, but we don't require any sort of studying to vote. That's just how ridiculous it is. We don't even require ID, and we absolutely should. Voting is something that far too many people are careless about, and they don't understand the sanctity of a vote and the responsibility of a vote, and they just want to hand it over to anyone that they can influence to vote for them. It should be in the hands of people who look and who think. That's the way our founding fathers envisioned voting, was in the hands of people who had skin in the game. So voting has changed over the years, and I'm grateful that it's available to everyone who's a citizen. And we absolutely should keep it to everyone who's a citizen. But citizenship means something. Citizenship means you've stood in line, you've earned it. We shouldn't be handing that away, because citizenship means that you're going to be a person who upholds the republic and understands that we're a republic and not a democracy. Not many people even understand that. So no, I disagree. I think everyone should be a citizen who votes. Voter IDs. This person, I believe every in-person voting on election day should be required to provide a valid photo ID. Wow, I agree with that. That's even people on the other side believe in that. So I think that's accurate. We should all have a photo ID. We should prove who we are when we're doing the most sacred duty that we have in our country. So mail-in ballots. Let's see. This person believes that mail-in ballots should be limited to individuals who can demonstrate that it's a legitimate hardship to vote in person. Wow, I believe that's pretty accurate as well. I would add to that military personnel who are serving abroad. One of the few things that military personnel can do is vote. They can't really state party preference or even campaign or do anything else while they're serving. So voting is sometimes the few ways that people serving on the other side of the world can send a message back to home that, hey, we agree or do agree with who's in charge. So yeah, mail-in ballots should be limited to individuals who demonstrate that it's a legitimate hardship to vote in person or serving in the country. So I would add to that. So I would agree with that. Illegal immigration. I believe the USA is a country which should welcome any and all who enter the country, regardless of how they come. No, not at all. We must be a country of laws. We must be a country of order. There must be process in the things that we allow or don't allow into our country. We are a land of liberty, but the processes should be defined and few to get to that land of liberty. Otherwise, we'd be overwhelmed and we'd lose the identity of our country. We must ensure that people coming here are here to assimilate to our ways, not to change and carry their socialistic ideals with them. So, no, not at all. I believe it should be an orderly process. We should just have a huge door, allow all those who love liberty, freedom, want to participate in this great American experience on those terms, absolutely. But it should be an orderly process. And people must go through that process. And if they are here illegally, they should not be allowed to participate in that process until they get in line. I don't believe in people cutting in line for anything. That's just wrong. So social welfare programs. I believe social welfare programs, food, housing, medical, education, etc., are essential to providing a stable society and should be expanded to include everyone in our country. Oh, regardless of how they got here, yes or no? I say no, absolutely not. I believe social welfare programs create reliance on those social welfare programs. It's human nature. We need to understand human nature, and they do. That's why they put these programs out there. If you get people addicted to food, housing, medical, education, etc., all handed out for free, as long as you vote for this particular set of people, you're always going to have a voting bloc. And our founding fathers were very much against government programs, especially for this reason. So no, I do not believe that government should have these programs. The only people who were provided for historically were the veterans who put it on the line and served their country during times of war. And, I believe if you serve your country valiantly and honorably, then you get injured in that, then, they own it. And that's the current system. But aside from that, a social welfare program that is open, available to absolutely anyone who just says, I'm checking out today and I think I'm done. It doesn't work that way. And even in the military programs, it doesn't work that way. Inflation. I believe if inflation is essential and needed and is overblown as a problem by conservatives. Wow. This one, I remember when I first read this, I was like, holy cow. And I mean no disrespect, but, I have talked to many, many people, and I myself am a disabled veteran on a fixed income, and I can tell you that inflation is kicking my butt. Inflation is kicking my friends' butts. In addition to this, I raise pigs as a hobby farmer, and my pig feed has gone from $280 a ton when I first got into this to roughly about $600 a ton. You add $100 for gas, so $700 a ton in the span of about 3 years. Now, I'm not able to recapture that price on the little piglets that I sell other homesteaders. Not at all. That's their food. That's their livelihood. So I'm underwater in that, and it's always just to try and break even, and we're not breaking even this year. So no, actually, inflation is out of control. It's absolutely out of control. It's not overblown problem by conservatives. Look, if you've got money, if you're stable, and you're in that upper middle class, maybe you're not feeling it yet, but no, the moms and pops, farmers, homesteaders, we're on fumes right now. We're barely making it. So and inflation is essential? Absolutely not. Inflation is essential. If you're using Keynesian economics, which most people are nowadays, they think that you have to inflate perpetually, indefinitely. in order for it to work. But if you go back to an Austrian economic system, you would obviously understand that that's based on sound money principles. We're not based on sound money principles. The whole Western world right now is based on Keynesian economics. They've inflated themselves into a huge bubble, and well, Europe's in free fall right now as a result of it. So no, inflation is not essential, and it's not overblown. It's absolutely destroyed the Western economy, and it's only beginning to start. So hold on tight there. So we disagree on that one. Government debt. I believe more government spending is essential to solving problems, and we should not be concerned about debt, as inflation will essentially cancel out the debt anyway. Oh, canceling out the debt magically by inflating money so that you can't afford to buy anything. That's their solution, and that's what we're seeing right now. That's why inflation's so hot, and they're just going to let it go, because they're trying to cancel out the debt. And they believe it's essential to solving problems. No, inflation was what created the problems in the first place. When we transitioned off of the gold standard in the 70s, that was it. If you want to follow the price of a can of Campbell's soup over history, and once we decoupled from that, you'll see the price and how it changed. That tells you everything you know about being on Keynesian economics. If we'd go back to an Austrian-based economic system, money would be more sound, more stable, and we wouldn't have many of these problems. But we have too much debt. We can't pay back the debt physically. It's impossible right now. That's why they're trying to inflate out of it. But our debt to GDP ratios through the moon. We're economically insolvent as a nation. They're just trying to put a Band-Aid on it right now and hope that nobody notices. So taxation. I believe the rich pay more taxes. The rich pay the majority of the taxes in this country. That's just a misnomer. And that's just because they have most of the money. So should they pay more? No, look, they already pay their fair share, if you want to get fair about it. And our government, our Constitution requires that taxes should be fair. Everybody should be taxed equally across the board, whether you're rich, poor, or indifferent. We should all have the same taxes. And the only way to properly do that is not based on income taxes. The income taxes is theft. Our founding fathers envisioned that taxation happen over tariffs, now on a national level, and that's the only taxes we should have on a national level. I think on a state level, what makes sense is perhaps a flat sales tax and a flat, simple business tax, and leave it at that. No other anything. Our tax system, especially in the business world, is the most complicated nightmare. It is impossible to be a small business person and try and focus on bringing in customers without trying to understand a regulatory system that's in the toilet. So no, rich should not pay more taxes. I think everyone should be taxed equally across the board in a fair tax scheme. I think that's we're all equal citizens. There's nothing that says, oh, they're wealthy, so they should bear more. No, not at all. Nor should anyone who makes less get away on not paying taxes. You know, taxes is part of supporting the state, the government that well, is oppressing us right now. And if you paid a bunch of taxes and they were oppressing us, we'd be a lot more louder on saying, hey, you know what, you need to back off on the oppression, which is actually what we need to do, is get them to back off and restore our liberties. So, no, rich should not pay more in taxes. Education, I believe our teachers are underpaid. Absolutely not. I have teachers in my family, both on my side, my wife's side. They do very well for themselves. And on top of that, some of them are not happy with the way things are in the education system, and it's not necessarily money. In this state, in Washington state, every single time that we have raised the amount of money we spend on our children, the test scores go down. So paying more money at this point in time doesn't buy me anything, especially when we're paying more money for teachers unions that want to keep people at home learning, when that destroyed our children's education. Our current education system decimated our children for 2 years. We're going to be having social challenges from this crazy lockdown for decades, and the challenges that masks had on emotional learning and other things. So no, teachers are not underpaid. I believe that education dollars need to be attached to the student and not failing institutions. So that $18,000 attached to Jane or Molly or Steve or whoever it is And if they want to go to public school, if their parents want them to go to public school, that's fine. That money can go there. But if they want to go to Catholic school, or if they want to go to private school, or if they want to homeschool, or if they want to do a co-op program, whatever they want to do, that money should go there. That way we have competition. And capitalism is beautiful for America, always has been. And our children need the best education that we can provide. And when parents have options, guess what? They're going to choose the best option. So whoever's educating their children the best, whoever's actually teaching them 1 + 1 = 2 instead of a bunch of circles and stuff that they don't get, well, those people are going to get the dollars. We pulled our children out to self-educate and homeschool, and that's been a blessing. It's a challenge. It's really difficult at times, but we found some good school books with teachers editions as well. We've been doing all that we need to do, and guess what? Our children are actually learning, and they're learning a heck of a lot better than they ever were in the school system. Now, that's our personal experience, but I believe that everybody can have that same personal experience. We still pay the same property taxes that go to the public school, but we don't get to reap any of those benefits. We pay for our own children's school books. If there's a lab kit needed, we have to pay for all that. Plus, pay for the public school system that we're not participating in. So, no, I think we need to look at education completely different. And, the next question answers how they feel about that. So they say, I believe homeschoolers should not be allowed, and that every child should be educated by the state. No. Government should never have control of the minds of our children, ever. The number one thing I run on is parents are the primary stakeholders in their children's lives. That means the parents are in charge of what the curriculum is for their children. Parents know what's best for their children. Parents know if their children are challenged in certain areas and what their interests are. So if that kid wants to grow up and be a truck driver, they're going to push him in that direction. If a kid wants to grow up and be a teacher, they're going to push him in that direction. If the kid doesn't know, he's going to get a nice general education until they figure it out. The state does not make a good educator. The state does not make a good healer or hospital caregiver. The state does not make a good guardian of our funds. The state does not do anything good. So why would we turn our most precious asset over to the state? So no, I absolutely disagree. Matter of fact, I think that wherever possible, every child should be homeschooled. Because caring parents, loving, caring parents, do a heck of a lot better job than some of the teachers out there trying to teach some of the nasty, terrible things to our children they're trying to do right now. And we need to just speak frank about that. So no, I absolutely do not believe that every child should be educated by the state. Oh, hey, so let's see their next statement. I believe most children are born neutral and should be educated and how to freely choose their own gender. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I believe we need to end gender mutilation in our children. We absolutely need to end destroying chemically and physically our children's bodies. The human mind does not mature until it's 25 years old. Just because a kid wants to be Batman or Wonder Woman does not necessarily mean you put a cape on them and throw them off a building. For crying out loud, we need to teach our children that there is such a thing as reality. And for thousands and thousands of years throughout history of humanity and history of the animal kingdom, a male is a male and a female is a female. And now all of a sudden we're going to try and reinvent that just because it makes somebody feel better about themselves? No. Absolutely not. People are not born neutral. They're born biologically with chromosomes that dictate X, Y, male, XX, female. We've identified this on a scientific principle. On the one hand, you say trust the science, but we look to biology and the history of biology and how we've identified scientifically what male and female is, even down to plants. There are some plants that are asexual, and those are traits that can be the same, but not in humans. We don't have those same traits. So, no. Children are not born neutral. I think that, let's get on to the next one here. The last one. I believe in the goals of the Lincoln Project PAC. Yes or no? No. Full stop. I believe the Lincoln Project is going to destroy this country, or is trying to. So, that's it. This is a long video. This is an answer to a Democratic constituent's questions. Thank you so much for the questions. Sorry, I'm a little shoddy looking today. Yeah, I'm a pig farmer, and I have a homestead, and I've got few times in between to get things done. I will be at a candidate forum tonight in Colville, I believe, in the Ag Center, and I'll look a little bit more pretty by then. But thank you very much for taking the opportunity to send me questions, and yeah, I'll answer questions from all sides. And here's the bottom line. And I wrestle with this question, but here's the answer. Yes, I'm still going to represent everybody, including the Democrats. And here's how we do it. I have committed to having a town hall in every one of the 7 counties once a month that I represent if I'm elected. Now that's 7 counties, 7 meetings a month that I'm committed to make myself available as a representative to everybody in the area. And that's both sides, Democrat, Independent, Republican. Doesn't necessarily matter, because ultimately I represent everybody. And here's how this works. I'm seeking guidance on what the bills are going to be and how you want me to vote, what you want me to do, what you want me to present. And I'm going to be carrying the people's voice forward. So if you want to be represented, show up. Now, anyone who wants to lobby me, they're going to have to lobby me publicly in those places. That's why you're going to have organizations like the NRA and everybody else not too happy about old Lonnie, because, well, I'm going to make them publicly lobby me just like I will everybody else. And I will turn to the people and say, look, this is what they want me to vote on. What say you? Because ultimately it's the people who decide. So, yes, I will have exactly that type of representation. And your voice as a Democrat, as a Republican, as an independent, or as just a mom or a dad, concerned citizen, whatever it is, will be heard. If you've got a concern, I'm going to do everything I can to address that concern. That's, I believe, what my job should be as a representative. Now, that's a hard needle to thread when we have a diverse 7 counties with a lot of different opinions. And I'm going to do my best to bring everybody together to understand what everybody's views were, and how I came to those conclusions on the final vote based on the input from the 7 counties that I got. And I hope to make this a better process for everyone involved. And then I hope to find somebody who's willing to run the next term, who's better than me, to replace me, and carry on that great tradition so we can continue to have good representation. That's really what I'm all about. I don't have any pride or ego involved in this. I've got things to do and family to take care of. I'm a disabled vet with injuries that hurt like heck all the time. That's my life. But I'm willing to stand up and serve again, because I believe we deserve better in government. Now, I may not ideologically align with half the people out there in the district, but I'm the only guy who's still going to represent you in the end. And let you come talk to me and say, hey, can I try and convince you otherwise? Absolutely, let's talk about it. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm someone who wants to hear all sides. And I like to have the dialogue, and I like to have that debate back and forth in a civil, loving way. And I think we need to get back to that type of civil government. So that's it. This video is long enough. It's going to take forever to upload and get on. It's been a while. Thank you for sticking around. I haven't been able to do nearly as many of these as I want. And now we've got the cold front here. We've got snow in the air, and life is changing. So I got to get back to the homestead and do a couple things before I got to shave and get ready to hit the road again. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for your support. There are some fantastic Americans across this district, all these counties, and thank you for your love and your support. I couldn't do it without you. You're amazing. No matter what, we've already won. We've already shown that there's a huge problem in the political system in this district, in this state, and that the establishment needs a good boot to the curb, and we the people are taking back the power. So thank you, everybody. God bless you, and God bless everybody who stands for liberty and freedom.